What if I told you there's an elephant so rare that most people have never seen one, and it's being systematically erased from existence for something as trivial as piano keys and jewelry? Deep in the rainforests of Central Africa, there lives a ghost. Not a spirit, but an animal so elusive that even researchers tracking them for years might only catch a glimpse through dense foliage. The African forest elephant, smaller than its savanna cousin, with straighter tusks and a more secretive nature, is vanishing. Not slowly, not gradually, but in a targeted industrial-scale slaughter that has pushed this ancient species to the brink. You see, while the savanna elephant gets most of the attention, its forest-dwelling relative faces a crisis that's both more hidden and more desperate. These elephants are the gardeners of the Congo Basin, spreading seeds that maintain the very forest they call home. Lose them, and you don't just lose an icon, you unravel an ecosystem. But how did we get here? To understand the scale of this loss, you have to go back to where it began for centuries. Forest elephants lived in relative obscurity. Their habitat, thick, nearly impenetrable rainforest, acted as a natural fortress. But in the late 20th century, two things changed everything. First, new roads carved through the wilderness, opening paths for miners, loggers, and eventually poachers. Second, a growing demand for ivory in Asia turned tusks into white gold. By the early 2000s, the killing accelerated into something methodical and ruthless. Poachers began using military-grade weapons. Sophisticated trafficking networks moved ivory out through ports and across borders disguised as legal goods. Corruption turned a blind eye. In just one decade, over 60% of forest elephants were killed. In some regions, they disappeared completely. But this isn't just a story of loss. It's also a story of an unprecedented fight back, a war being waged by rangers, scientists, and local communities in some of the most dangerous terrain on Earth. Let's start with the front lines, the rangers. In parks like Dzanga Bay in the Central African Republic, rangers patrol knowing they might encounter poachers armed with AK-47s. These aren't casual hunters. They're often part of organized militias funded by the illegal wildlife trade. Rangers work in extreme conditions, humid, muddy, and isolated, for months at a time. Many have been injured. Some have been killed, but they're not alone. Technology has become a game changer. Drones now fly silently over the canopy, spotting poacher camps from the air. Acoustic sensors hidden in trees can detect gunshots from miles away and alert ranger stations in real time. Satellite imagery tracks deforestation and human encroachment before elephants are even targeted. Then there's the forensic science. DNA analysis of seized ivory can now trace it back to specific elephant populations, sometimes even to particular national parks. This isn't just about catching low-level poachers. It's about dismantling the networks that fund them. One study matched tusks from a massive seizure in Singapore to forest elephants killed in a single region of Gabon. That kind of evidence is turning the tide in courtrooms. But perhaps the most overlooked part of this fight is happening in the villages. For decades, many local communities saw elephants as dangerous pests that destroyed crops. But conservation groups realized that if people don't benefit from protecting wildlife, they won't. So they've started programs that channel tourism revenue directly to villages. They've trained former poachers as trackers and guides. They've built schools and clinics funded by conservation in places like the Dzanga Sanga Reserve. Former hunters now lead tourists to see the very elephants they might once have killed. That shift from conflict to coexistence might be the most powerful weapon in this war, and the elephants themselves are adapting in astonishing ways. Researchers have noticed that forest elephants in heavily poached areas have started evolving smaller tusks or none at all. It's natural selection in action. Tuskless elephants survive and pass on their genes. While that might help them evade poachers, it also changes how they interact with their environment. Tusks aren't just ornaments. They're tools for stripping bark, digging for water, and competing for mates. But even with all this effort, the numbers remain staggering. Forest elephant populations have declined by more than 86% in just 30 years. There are now fewer than 100,000 left across their entire range. Some experts believe they could be extinct in the wild within our lifetime if current trends continue. The challenge isn't just stopping the killing, it's addressing the demand. International ivory bans have helped, but underground markets still flourish. Carved ivory trinkets, chopsticks, and signature seals remain status symbols in some countries. Until owning ivory becomes socially unacceptable, like wearing fur or smoking in restaurants, the market will persist. What gives hope is that we're starting to see results where protection is consistent. In Gabon's Longo National Park, forest elephant numbers have stabilized after years of intensive anti-poaching efforts. In Congo's Nwabale Ndoki National Park, populations are even slowly increasing. These success stories prove that when we commit resources and political will, we can change the trajectory. The African forest elephant represents something bigger than itself. It's a test of our ability to protect what remains wild, to value life beyond profit, to fight for creatures that have no voice of their own. If we can save an animal being hunted into oblivion in some of the world's most challenging environments, what can't we achieve? Every forest elephant that walks through the dappled light of the Congo rainforest today does so because someone, a ranger, a scientist, a community leader, decided that its life was worth risking their own. That's not just conservation, that's a form of guardianship. And it might be the only thing standing between this ancient species and silence. Which endangered species do you think needs more attention right now? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your suggestion could be the focus of our next video.